So one thing is, how do individuals, at the moment you're talking about layers, you're talking about individuals.
Individuals is at the bottom of it, right? But essential.
Absolutely. So how do individuals use AI in order to perform their own tasks? And this is absolutely important. And for sure, it's going to be part of those first 2 years that you're referring to, right? So how do we help them get accustomed to it, accept the concept that this is somehow an extension of themselves rather than a sparring partner, if you want. We often talk about sparring partners when we're talking about AI. Actually, it can act as a sparring partner. It is in reality an extension of the individual. So as we can help individuals accept this and grow, and this is true at all of the different levels. What the individuals can do with this definitely will change. However, the moment you bring systems thinking, and in particular systems dynamics into it, you've altered the picture. Yeah. Because at this point, it's not a question of individuals, but it's a question of relationships between the individuals. So now you're observing, how do these relationships develop? How do these relationships strengthen or weaken? Which relationships break completely and disappear? So the moment you introduce AI at a systems dynamics level, you are changing the way the human framework works. That lattice that holds the company together changes. It doesn't mean it becomes worse. It can be extremely more powerful. Yeah. But you need to know what you're doing.
But it'll also go through growing pains and stuff. We'll talk about some of the...
It might kill it.
Yeah.
So you need to know what you're doing, right? Now, do you need to go all that way? No, not necessarily, right? In most maturity growths, we stop at level 2, level 3, whatever. We get to a certain point and we say, yeah, I'm good here, right? And so what we have is, we have the AI little agent that helps me rationalize my email, whatever. Nice. But if you really want to embed AI into your organization, your maturity growth must continue from there. And at that point, this lattice structure of your organization, which is those processes that I was referring to earlier, change. Yeah.
Well, I think you're addressing the big issue is that you can create AI literacy at the bottom, but if there's not somehow a thread that goes from the top to the bottom, you're exposing yourself to a whole bunch of different risk.
You don't want the organization to work at different speeds.
Yeah. So, but if we go back to these 3 different levels, strategic, tactical, operational, and we could call it meta, macro, micro. Let's talk real briefly about, does it make sense to create literacy at the grassroots of an organization?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, yes, of course. I mean, it depends what the organization is doing, right? But if your objective, if we're still talking about an organization like the one that you've mentioned that has as vision that of embedding AI into their existence, then everybody needs to be involved.
I don't know. This is an example, and we have to always be careful when one uses historical examples that one's experienced, whether it's really a guideline for everything. But I think it's a good guideline. A company that I won't mention, also a large multinational company, a lot of the products that they deliver to their clients, they're not of a software, they're a hardware nature, and they're fairly complex, so they had to deliver them as projects. They would install them, right? And this organization has been around for a long time. And the grassroots of the organization realized that project management was an elemental part of their delivery process. But there was never an acknowledgement, a serious acknowledgement from the top. It was kind of like, that's operational, figure it out yourself, right? So this organization has multiple national subsidiaries and multiple business units, and by the nature of their business, because they needed a process for project management at a grassroots level, maybe a little bit on a tactical level, they started developing their own project management standards. Okay, some of them borrowed from PMI, some of them borrowed from IPMA, some of them borrowed from Prince 2, some of them invented the wheel new.
Of course, everybody,
whatever, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
locally there.
And it was a big, large global village of different PM communities that there was no really issue because every business unit was doing their own thing. And it was
Each
kind
one
of
felt that they should be global.
And it was a grassroots thing, and it was part of their culture. It was part of their hidden culture, their established culture. Somewhere along the line, the upper management, which was, I guess, a step in evolution, said, "You know what? Project management is important. You know, we're involved in this process." And they said, "You know what? It doesn't make sense that we have 15 different standards. We need to have a common language. We need to have a common process. We need to streamline. We need to have an academy. We need to educate people. We need to fulfill our responsibility on an executive, senior management, middle management level in supporting our staff." And that was a long transformation process, and they actually did it. And for me, that was one of those really distinct examples of how a lot of initiatives begin grassroots, and then the top kind of kickstarts, and then somewhere they meet in the middle. I'm not saying that there weren't some growing pains and there weren't some serious discussions and politics going on, but I thought that was a great example.
It is. It is a great example. And there are companies that go through the same process. I mean, it's quite a... and what you've noticed is essentially how in many companies project management becomes a strategic skill set.
But let's use that example and apply it to the AI if it makes sense to apply it, right? I have the feeling from some of the clients that I've interacted with that there's some rumblings going on Mount Olympus. The Greek gods are throwing lightning bolts, but nobody knows what the heck is going on, except every once in a while there's something on Instagram or something, right? And at the bottom, it's kind of the frontier, right? We have a couple tools.
Trying things, yeah.
That, you know, I don't even know what you're doing, you know, and there's no